First and possibly only presidential debate between Republican nominee Donald Trump and Democrat Kamala Harris took place Tuesday night in Philadelphia.
When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America.
After never answering the question about whether Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago, Harris talked about a tax deduction for small businesses. Then she began mentioning dozens of false or misleading statements that were never fact-checked by the moderators, as they did to Donald Trump.
My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month.
When it was the former president's turn to speak, he called her out.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago.
Harris also tried to blame Donald Trump for the jobs lost during the COVID-19 pandemic. Then she said this.
I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling.
But the only name-calling and personal attacks during the course of the night were done by Harris.
World leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. It is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy.
Conservatives like Megyn Kelly reacted by calling out ABC News anchors for one-sided fact-checking.
Well, I watched it. Did you watch it? I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted. I'm ashamed of those moderators at ABC News. They did exactly what their bosses wanted them to do. The person who runs ABC News is a close personal friend of Kamala Harris.
Now it appears talks may be underway for a second debate. Fior?
Mike, independent presidential candidate Robert Kennedy Jr. posted a video message to his supporters Tuesday, urging them to vote for former President Donald Trump.
Hey, everybody. A lot of people are asking me if they live in a red state or a blue state, should they still be voting for me? What about swing states? The answer is easy, no. No matter what state you live in, you should be voting for Donald Trump. And let me tell you why. That's the only way that we can get me and everything I stand for into Washington, D.C. and fulfill the mission that motivated my campaign.
Kennedy stressed whether it was a blue, red, or battleground state, a Kennedy win was a Trump win.
Donald Trump spoke this morning, saying last night's debate was a 3-versus-1 tag team. Many people felt ABC News worked to blunt the former president while giving Harris a pass. Here's a sample of that.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But the question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin?
So that one-sided fact-checking by ABC News, does that surprise you? And did Harris succeed in getting the former president off that debate plan?
Well, I think certainly on the fact-checking end, I got the impression about halfway through the debate that Donald Trump could have asserted that the sun was the center of the solar system and they would have fact-checked him. But Kamala Harris could have said that the moon is made of green cheese, and they would have kind of let that slide. I think that in some ways, certainly Kamala Harris benefited from the kind of the slapshod work of the moderators. And I think that the moderators and Kamala Harris did in some ways pull Trump away, talking about debate, rally sizes and things like that. On the other hand, I felt like Trump did a pretty good job of at least getting his message out, even when he was confronted with the bizarre so-called fact checking.
Right. Now, Kamala Harris has made a federal law allowing abortion anytime a campaign plank. When Donald Trump addressed this issue, the moderator, well, some say she chose to lie. Listen to this.
And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Well, now, ABC News' Lindsay Davis spoke, some will say with a smug arrogance there, but here's the truth, Michael. As the Daily Signal reported just 5 days ago, it was Harris's running mate, Tim Walz, who allowed 5 babies to die on the birthing table, then removed reporting requirements. Why won't the Democrats draw a line somewhere that says at some point we can't kill babies?
Look, there are at least 5 states in the union that I'm aware of where there are no restrictions as to gestational age before a block on abortion goes into effect. So there are at least 5 states where Donald Trump is absolutely correct. The Democrats don't want to talk about it because they know their position is extreme, even among those who support some limited access to abortion. Most Americans don't want to see newborn babies slaughtered, but that's precisely what Tim Walz has allowed to happen in his state. They don't want to talk about it.
Right. All right. Be sure to check out the excellent news analysis at TexasScorecard.com. Michael, thank you so much for the expertise you bring and for being with us today.